What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Christina.
And we are going to be doing a spoiler discussion. So if you don't want anything spoiled,
don't watch.
Don't watch. Watch the show and come back. But we're doing episode 7 of Lovecraft Country called I Am. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're back to talk about Lovecraft Country. We're only, 3 more episodes left until the entire season's over?
Feels like they have a lot to cover before the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they're going to be rushing a lot of stuff. Like I said, I think the last 3 episodes are where they're all going to come together because they've covered everybody pretty much now, except for Dee, the daughter. Mm-hmm. But she's kind of like a side character to Hippolyta, which I've been saying Hippolyta. Fucking forgive me, guys.
Have it.
Whatever, all right. But yeah, I think they're going to come together. It's going to be a bunch of different story elements. It might be really fast paced, and we might be obviously left on a big hanger. Mm-hmm. You know,
probably
something.
Probably.
Because they've been hitting it hard. I mean, shit, what was it? The second episode, they fucking crushed the castle.
Right.
Like right off the bat.
The
like,
lodge,
damn.
Yeah.
The castle, lodge, whatever. It's funny because you called it the castle
I
last
did,
time.
And
I corrected you.
So I have to correct you because you corrected me.
Son of a bitch. So this episode is the Hippolyta episode called I Am, and it's all about self-discovery, of course, for Hippolyta. And it's kind of a woman empowerment episode, I would say, which, you know, the show seems to cover the gamut of different types of people who have been through different segregation, voting rights, like privileges, all kinds of stuff. And this one happens to be about Hippolyta in particular, and a little bit of Ruby too, huh? Mm-hmm. Because they both kind of have some similarities in some regard, because they all both want to be somebody else, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Well, first, actually, before I get into that, what did you think of this episode?
Oh, I thought it was okay. I was kind of disappointed.
It was short.
Yeah, it was short. I mean, we knew there was going to be like a time traveling like element to the show, but I was kind of disappointed how they did it. Even though I understand why they did it like that because of her character. And
you know how like a lot of these episodes are like kind of compared to like Indiana Jones, or this is the whatever episode and this is that episode. There was even like a Evil Dead nod in the very first episode almost. You know, like they have these little nods in there. Did you find any for this in particular? Is it just 50s sci-fi kind of thing?
I guess. I'm not as...
It looked gorgeous.
Yeah, it did. So, yeah, some of the scenes, yeah, it really did. They did a good creative job with it. I didn't really compare it to anything, but I'm not that into like time travel and stuff as you are. So
well. Well, they did have some the theory, or there were some things about space and time that they had some nods to with in regard to real scientific and philosophy and shit like that. I couldn't really compare it to anything else, though.
Well, it kind of left you at the end of her journeys. It kind of left you questioning if, like, well, is that real or is that another dimension? Is she really time traveling? And then
right.
I was left with like a lot of questions.
I think that the episode really took off halfway through, and I was just like really into it.
Right.
I liked it a lot. I got really excited. You remember me yelling? I was like, yes!
Yes.
When she got sucked into that fucking thing, which we'll talk about more. That's when I was like really excited. That's when I was like, oh my God, this is like tense. Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Well, first off, we got Hippolyta doing a ton of research on the planetarium. She's kind of obsessed. We don't know really if this takes place shortly after. I'm pretty sure it's shortly after she took the planetarium from the house, so it must be earlier than a lot of these episodes.
But it was weird in the beginning of the episode though, because it went back.
Right.
Like, it was showing her trying to figure out what the hell this thing was supposed to do, and then it went back 3 days, and then it went forward.
Well, we found out that after the lodge was destroyed and crumbled, she went to the site and found her daughter Dee's comic book called Orithia Blue. which she embodies later on in the episode, which is really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
But she goes back to her house with it, and she realizes, obviously, that George, there's more to this story about George than anybody's telling her. And it seems to be a kind of a theme here in this show that everybody's kind of like...
keeping shit from
when they
each
should
other.
just be family and stick together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they should just help each other because
it
they're all...
creates the drama.
Right, of course, because you got to keep
Drama.
secrets from each other. But she figures out how to open it because she lays down and she sees the planetarium on its side, and she realizes that she's got to twist these two things on its axis so that it actually spins.
The planets, yeah.
Yeah, and that gives her the clue, and it opens up the top, and she gets the key out. Now, there's a quote on the spot where the key is being held underneath the sun, and it says, "Every beginning is in time, and every limit of extension in space," which is a nod and a quote from a book called Critique of Pure Reason. Now, there's some people that couldn't find this online, and I'll give them credit because it was not easy to find. But I ended up doing more digging, and I found out it was by Immanuel Kant. And the full quote is, "Every beginning is in time, and every limit of extension in space. Space and time, however, exist in the world of sense only. Hence, phenomena are only limited in the world conditionally. The world itself, however, is limited neither conditionally nor unconditionally." And this is based on a philosopher, a German philosopher from 1781 that he wrote this book called Critique of Pure Reason. There was other books in this series about this. But he was a German philosopher and one of the central Enlightenment thinkers. This is off the wiki, of course. Kant's comprehension and systematic works in epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, aesthetics have made him one of the most influential figures in modern Western philosophy.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff to know.
Yes. And our dog, it's his birthday today. So he's living it up. God damn it, Murray. He did this on the podcast. So a lot of his theories in philosophy and everything deal with the philosophy of space and time, which focuses on a number of basic issues, including whether time and space exist independently of the mind or whether they exist independently of one another, and what accounts for time's apparently undirectional flow, as in whether it's linear, like how does it go? Does there multiple dimensions? This is all the like precursor to those kind of thoughts. Whether times other than the present moment exist, and questions about the nature of identity, particularly the nature of identity over time. So that's why in this episode, when we see her travel to different locations that she never really existed in, means that there can be alternate dimensions, alternate parallel times. They have, of course, you know, even on the actual planetarium when it opens up, it has coordinates, and then the movie does a lot of coordinates at the bottom, which I'm sorry, guys, I didn't bother looking it up on the Google Maps. So,
well, they were coordinates for time and space,
right?
So it
but they're
like they could pull it. You can't like pull it up,
right? You could technically figure it out on the planet, but they were on other planets, so it's not like you know. Plus, they were combining histories and stuff, and like fiction and nonfiction, and it was kind of an interesting thing. And I think the creatures or the aliens she meets have control of both. They know how to use both
for their own.
And it's something that you have to unlock within yourself, and knowing of yourself in order to get to that point. And that's obviously
what she's
Hippolyta.
doing. Yeah.
So, for all of you that are blown the fuck out of your minds right now and wondering what the fuck, I also did one of the coordinates, and that was the one off the planetarium, and it was like 39.805499 latitude, negative 95.159492 longitude, which ended up being somewhere in Kansas, just north of Kansas City on 205th Road. But in this show, she ends up at Mayfield, which I don't even know where the fuck that is. They didn't even say.
I forgot where it's in Kansas. There's a Mayfield, Kansas.
Did you look it up?
I didn't go extensively down a hole with it.
But you searched it.
Yeah, I searched it.
Let me see it.
But
I'm gonna look.
pretty sure there's a lot of cities named Mayfield in the United States.
Oh, there is a Mayfield, Kansas observatory.
Boom, I told you.
It wasn't too far off then, I guess. That I did not know.
That's cool.
It's called the Powell Observatory, the Astronomical Society of Kansas City. I thought it was off because I couldn't see Mayfield on the map.
Well, maybe it's just small enough that, I don't know, it depends on your Google Maps.
This show, I would not doubt that the number 205 will appear in some of the episodes and you won't even realize it.
Right.
It'll be like 205 on the clock or something like that.
There's background characters in this movie that are historically accurate to what was going on at the time.
It's pretty cool.
It's a really in-depth show.
But there is an observatory out there, obviously. But we also get to see Christina and Ruby have a couple of moments in this episode to kind of get us back to what just happened in that last episode, which was like a crazy one.
And now we know exactly how she's doing the potion.
Right. She's got...
You see William and, what's her name?
Clem?
The sheriff.
Clem?
Chick, yeah.
I think it's Clem.
Yes. Laying in a bed with, like, IVs and stuff.
Well, they're on like hospital beds. They're already dead, but they're being kept alive blood-wise.
Right.
So she can make
use
potions.
It for the potions.
Right.
Which makes so much sense now.
Which is funny, too, because like Ruby has this moment where she's like, well, I want to know every fucking thing. Dude, she's awesome when she gets mad. I love it.
Right.
She talks about Lancaster shooting William in the back, which we had a discussion about that. Anyway, we go back to Tick and Letty, and they share this dream. The dream that Tick's been having where he's like running down the hallway and at the lodge, and he sees Hannah, the pregnant woman who was the slave that was at the lodge that got burned down, and she took the book of names, which Letty has the exact same dream, only this one, she's like holding her stomach because obviously...
Because she's pregnant.
Yeah.
No,
Tick made a baby.
And I think she's having those visions now because the baby in her because it's a bloodline that she's having the vision.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Because first I was like, oh my God, are they related? But I don't know too.
That's what people have been saying too, but I'm like, I don't think it's going to be incestual.
But Christina says stuff to Ruby about her bloodline, so it's like, oh shit. Maybe
I know that's why people are saying that, but I just don't think it is.
Well, it's HBO.
God, would that be weird? It's like Star Wars, only they actually had sex.
But HBO's like really...
Ruby's like, or Letty's like has the baby, and then Tick's like, whatever the baby's name is, I am your father. Because he is like fucking Darth Vader. He's a bad guy, sort of, you know? He's got
bad guy, good guy.
Yeah.
But it's HBO too, and a lot of their shows are incestual.
Yeah, no, very much so.
Game of Thrones.
What are you trying to say, HBO? But they both catch fire in the dream and everything like that, and they figure out that the book that she's carrying is the Book of Names, which, of course, they thought they lost and is gone forever, and sort of is, but maybe it's still around, and Christina is, like, looking just for the pages, so Tick and Letty have this discussion, well, if she's just looking for the pages, well, why don't we just go and get the whole fucking book? So that's when Letty lets him know that he has a cousin who survived the Tulsa riots.
Right, because they walked up on Montrose and Sammy.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over that. Montrose and Sammy have an argument. Seems like, Montrose is falling back into his old ways after the nice show that went on, and he was feeling so good about himself and everything like that. You can see it's ingrained in him in his whole life because of how his father treated him for being the way that he was, how he hid from his own wife, Tick's mom. Well, he didn't hide it. She knew. They got married.
Right.
Sammy's pissed off, and he's like, grabs his arm, Montrose does, as Tick and Letty are walking up.
Yeah. So then, of course, it clicks in Tick's mind. Oh, shit.
Right.
And then he called him the F word.
He called him the sexual F word, yes.
Broke my heart. I'm like, oh.
I know. I'm like, dude, like, first you shoot a Korean woman in the fucking head. Now you're fucking calling them the F word?
Your dad, the F word.
But to be fair, his dad did beat the shit out of him as a kid because he didn't want him to be gay.
Right.
So
Atticus storms off, and that's when Letty asks Montrose about the family, and his mother had a cousin who survived Tulsa, so then they plan on going and finding that cousin to ask about the book. So as they're going, they want to use Woody, the car
from Hippolyta.
Yeah, but she was leaving.
Dude, she was so fucking great in that moment.
It was great. It was a good for her.
I loved her in that. That was really cool because she's pissed because she knows that they lied to her about George. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't know why yet.
Right.
But she's got her own secrets.
Right. Well, now she does, yeah, because she's got a key.
She's got her own. She's got her own curiosities.
So she's going out,
Yeah.
and so I also like the part they're driving, and she goes to get her lunch, and Dee left a comic book in there for her, just like she did for George.
Right, which was
I
really
thought that was
sweet. Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Well, because Dee, at first, when she's leaving, she's like, we better do the checklist. And she's like, I'm going to do a stupid fucking checklist, pretty much, you know? It's
Right.
like kind of heartbreaking a little bit because she's just trying to keep things together. Hippolyta, sorry. But yeah, I thought that was really sweet. But that's when she meets she's driving down the road and she sees a woman on a motorcycle. And there she's all excited. She's like, oh, hey, you know, like, and you don't really know who she is. Like, at least I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. I
but
didn't
you
either.
did. You kind of knew.
Well, no, I knew after the fact.
Okay.
Like, after, because I was like, oh, they added that person in there for some reason.
Right. And that is Bessie Stringfield, who she was an American motorcyclist who basically was the first African-American woman to ride across the entire United States completely solo. And she was one of the few motorcycle dispatch riders for the U.S. Army during World War II.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty cool.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I did too.
That's
To
this is like
throw
those
her in
little
there.
stories that you forget about or don't hear about.
Yeah, I've never heard about her.
Yeah.
Like, she did a lot.
She was actually credited for breaking down the barriers for both women and Jamaican American motorcyclists. She was also inducted into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame, which was given to her by the American Motorcycle Association for superior achievement by a female motorcyclist. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool too.
But that's just a little Easter egg, you know. She ended up at the observatory, which we were talking about, which is apparently, by the way, in the book, Hiram's observatory.
Oh.
Hiram Epstein, who owned the house that Letty got, and
You're right.
she banished the spirit of, you know.
Oh, but how do we know it still wasn't his?
No, it is. Well, yeah, I mean, it probably.
Yeah, it might have. Yeah, they just couldn't, fit it in there because there's so much. But those cops were Lancaster cops, weren't they?
Yes, you're correct.
Because the cops show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh fuck, and she hides, and you're like, okay, she's gonna hide, she's gonna make it. And
Yeah,
nope.
Well, I don't know why she left it on. I would have turned that shit off. I was like, she's fucked.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh my God. And they're like, how did you fucking start this? How did you fucking figure
they're
this
all
out?
nasty.
Because she does all these like math equations to figure out like latitude, longitude, and like different
Yeah, like
things.
math shit. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
math shit.
They do the like all the symbols around her head, and she's like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Like they do in fucking Hangover when the guy's like doing the math when he's doing poker games. The stupid guy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But then like all of a sudden the cops start to rough her up, and then bam,
Tick
like
comes
out of
in.
nowhere. It's like what the fuck?
And Tick was in St. Louis visiting his aunt,
Yeah, or the cousin.
or whatever
The
it
mother's
was.
cousin.
Yeah.
His mother's cousin, and then
Asking about the book.
Right, and then Letty called him there, and
That's
she
right.
gave him the
coordinates.
because.
But how did he get there so fast?
Because he was in St. Louis. He was right by. He must have been right by and just started headed over
It
there.
seemed really kind of quick, but maybe, I don't know.
Well, whatever.
We don't know how much
It's
time
TV
passed.
Land. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in here that has a lot of questions.
So like all of a sudden he slams into the fucking machine. It sparks up, and like all the like this wall of like portals is like flipping through like slides, like one of those like fucking viewfinders or whatever.
Yeah. That's a good
And
comparison.
it's like just flipping and flipping and flipping, and it looks so cool. Like I love just
It did
looking.
look
I wish I
cool.
could. I probably should have gone through and just slowed it all down, just to see every little dimension or whatever it was. There was some that was just pure space and energy.
Right.
There was like some that were planets, some that were lit, some that weren't. And he throws that cop in there, man, and that
And
guy's
she-
just gone.
And she shoots the other cop. You're like, fuck.
Right,
Shit.
which is the big mistake.
Yeah. But then the portal sucks them both in.
Yeah, she sucks Hippolyta in, and then
Atticus.
Atticus is like, oh shit.
And then they're gone.
You know, well, it follows Hippolyta first, and then we find out what happened to Tick a little bit
Towards the end.
afterwards.
Yeah.
She lands on a dark planet that has like two alien robotic kind of people, right? They look like Tron or some shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck? And they put her in this white room and like put her, and they keep telling her, and there's this woman that comes out, by the way.
She wakes up naked. Hippolyta wakes up
Oh, that's right,
naked.
yeah.
And then she puts on this suit, which looks like Ripley's suit from Aliens.
I gotta give it to people, man. I wouldn't want to be up on a fucking slab completely naked for TV.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, put some fucking wraps around me. Why do I need to be nude, motherfucker? I don't need my scrum diddly all flip-flapping around. But yeah, and then the large black woman who comes in who's an alien, which I found out her name is Serafina.
Serafina. Yeah, because it said in the credits.
AKA Beyonce. Say something like that.
I know there's something that it has to do with Beyonce.
Right.
But I didn't look it up.
Didn't you say something about that? Isn't that Beyonce or something? Or is that...
I'm pretty sure that was the look she did on one of her tours.
Right. That's what I was hearing too.
I'm not like 100%.
Didn't she have like platforms on too? Like where she was like really tall?
Yeah.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Maybe that's what it is.
But it's a nod to her, obviously. And what's also, I'm going to bring this up now just because we're talking about Beyonce, is Beyonce actually did a bunch of things about Josephine Baker, too. And she gets brought up later.
We'll talk about her in a little bit, But yeah, so the first thing that the alien says to her when she's like freaking out and panicking, Hippolyta, in this white room with a table with all these weird shapes on it, is that, you know, she's not a prisoner here. It's really her own prison. Like that's the symbolism, is that she's in her own mind.
Right. And I mean, she got out of that room.
She did.
Yeah.
And then when she tries to escape, the alien's like, boom!
Right.
Tell me who you are!
Uh-huh.
Give me a name. Who are you? Or something like that. Say your name. And I was like, is that Never-Ending Story? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Where he has to name the princess?
Right.
I mean, maybe not, but I don't know. It's kind of reminding me of that. Say her name, Bastion! Someone else is probably like, what? No.
Like, what the fuck is Never-Ending Story?
Yeah. Or she's like, where do you want to be? Or who are you? She's like, I want to be on stage with Josephine Baker in Paris, France.
And then, whoop, she's there.
Just, zoop.
And also, when Hippolyta was driving,
Yeah.
that was Josephine Baker playing in the car.
Yeah, I heard that too, yeah.
So, well, I'd never heard of her before, so like, this
why don't
was
you
a
tell us
whole-
about
this was like
Josephine Baker?
A whole new thing for me. So she was an American-born French entertainer.
Yeah.
So she was born in St. Louis, and then she ended up moving to France. One of the 4 husbands she had. She also adopted 12 children, which I was just like, that's fucking awesome. Yeah. But she was actually not just an entertainer. She was a part of the French Resistance. She was an agent, a civil rights activist. When she performed in America, she refused to perform for segregated crowds.
Oh, well, yeah.
So I thought that was awesome. But she pretty much made her home in France.
I'm curious to see what it was like over there. Obviously, probably better than it was in the States.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope.
But like Hippolyta, of course, gets to, it's like one of her idols because she was able to escape it and like be famous and like do all these wonderful things that Hippolyta really loves. And she has this self-discovery, like she's on stage fumbling around. Like, I don't even know how she knows the dance or anything, but it's an alternate world. And she kind of befriends Josephine Baker.
And it seems like she was there for a few months or something.
Right. So she's going through these stages of self-realization about herself because, you know, as a human being, we think we know what we want. And then when we get it, it's not what we wanted. And then we go through another change and we do that. And it's like, well, that's not what we wanted. This particular one was she just wanted to fame. She figured that would solve all of her problems, I guess. You know, fame and like feeling free. But she realized that she was just doing what white people wanted her to do, which is to dance or whatever the hell it is. And she even has that talk with Josephine Baker about it, which is really, she's like, sometimes I just want to kill white people, you know, but, you know, I'm mad at myself just as much because
I let them belittle me.
Yeah. I let them,
small.
Right. She yells, I am Hippolyta. And she goes into
Warrior mode,
which we brought this up. And I think it was in episode 2. Maybe 3. Hippolyta in the Greek mythology is the queen of the Amazons.
Oh, okay.
And this could be like Amazonia in another dimension. It could be possible that it is a different timeline because she even goes to see George after this, you know what I mean? And like he's already dead. So clearly it's not just time, but it could be alternate dimensions and
yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was more of an alternate dimensional thing, and who knows if it's even real or if it's all in her mind.
Well, and this is like her self-realization part where she thinks she's strong, but she's not. And so this inner part of herself is battling herself and training herself to be strong and to believe in herself and to never give up. And so she keeps fighting this woman who's like teaching her, and then she gets the leg up on her, and then the queen gives her the helmet, and then she goes right into war with Confederate soldiers, which I was like, what the fuck? You thought it was British, and I was like, no, that's definitely Confederate soldiers.
Yeah, this is where I got confused.
This is an alternate time dimension, obviously.
But I thought it was cool that after they killed that group of soldiers, then she had a big speech, and there was just some more soldiers coming, and that's really like life. You know what I mean? It just... There's always somebody coming at you or something.
Well, it's weird that because she beat the first batch of Confederate soldiers with her group. And I don't know if those were just like different figments of her own personalities fighting together with her. But they all were. She has this speech about being true to yourself and all this other stuff.
And then she just fucking abandons them.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like, there's like thousands of them ready to fucking destroy everything.
She just fucking leaves all those other girls.
Yeah, like peace out.
And good luck.
I mean, it's more symbolism anyway.
Right, exactly.
Because, you know.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably in her mind, and it's not really like.
So she's
happening.
like, I'm Hippolyta. I am George's Hippolyta.
Wife.
I'm George's wife, Hippolyta.
Right.
And so she thinks, well, you know, I got to experience it now, you know, what it's like to fame, freedom, to be strong. I know I'm strong now. And she tells George the whole story. And that was really cool. They were having this moment. It goes back to the very first scene in the entire, well, not the first scene.
No.
Right after the credits, after we see Lovecraft Country, it goes and she's on the bed with George having that conversation they did when the first episode started. And then she tells him everything, and he's like, wow. He's like, if all these like different eventualities and all these different timelines that you could have gone, and you chose to be here with me, that makes me feel special, kind of thing. And that made it click in her mind that she was like,
oh, shit.
She's like, he's held me back from being the person I really wanted to be my whole life.
Right.
I still love him, but yeah, he's kind of held me back. He's like...
Yeah, because he wouldn't let her go on the trips. He wouldn't let her help with the guide. Like, yeah, it makes sense.
And George is like, you're right.
And yeah, he realized it and he apologized.
He's like, you're right. I wanted to keep you at home because I wanted to keep you safe, and I didn't want anything to change.
And then she said, I am Hippolyta, the discoverer, and she takes George with her.
Right.
Which makes me also think, like, this is in her mind. This isn't traveling.
They're doing the safe travel book only in space.
Right.
And her spaceship is also, if you look at it closely,
really close.
It's woody.
Yeah, which is so cool.
I love that.
So cool.
And I called it in the very beginning of the episode.
Like, she's going to be in the comic book.
She's going to be the comic book. I guarantee you.
And she was.
She was Arinthia Blue.
Yep. And then in that scene, she realized Serafina. That's her name, right? Right.
Well, they're on a couple of different planets, and he's documenting stuff and writing it in his book on an electronic tablet or whatever. And then like she's floating in space, just happy. And that's when Serafina appears and is like, oh.
Right.
She's like, girl, you're ready. She's like, you can be integrated into our society. You no longer need that weird thing on your wrist.
And then she realizes, oh, D. What about D? I need to be with D.
So she goes back.
But we didn't really see her go back.
It's true.
That was like the end of it.
And if she's in alternate dimensions and shit like that, is it going to be the one that she went back to?
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, we don't know. Could she bring George with her back to, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on?
Well, that's the other. Yes, that's a really good point.
I know.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about him coming back for a long time.
Yep.
And this may be the thing that brings him back.
The way to bring it back. Because after that, we see Atticus come through the portal on back to the planetarium with the dead cop on the floor, and he's holding a book.
And that book is Lovecraft Country, but not by the guy who actually did it.
In our
our plane of existence, yeah. It's written by George Freeman, who is George.
George. It was written by George. Which now I'm wondering, what if they could bring the episode to like our dimension to where it's a show? You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be weird?
Yeah,
That's too.
I mean, it's
a little
already
too-
meta as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, we don't, I mean,
That would be,
obviously,
like, ultra.
if he's getting the book, I think that door's already closed, because if he got the book and George Freeman wrote it.
Yeah, he was somewhere else.
So he might have gone to the future.
But
Now I got it. I think I got it. This is just theory. Just hear me out. He didn't go to an alternate dimension. He went to the future.
But
Hold on. He went to the future in that timeline, the same timeline he was from. Hold on.
wait, who was from?
The same timeline where George died.
Okay.
Okay. But Hippolyta, what we don't see, what Tick has seen or been through, is he went to the future where George had actually written the book, Lovecraft Country, right?
But how did he write it if he's dead?
Because Hippolyta brings him back, like you were saying, to the same timeline, and he exists further on.
I'm so confused. This fucking show.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
though?
it makes sense. Yeah. God, if that's what happens, I think I would be done, because that's a lot. Like,
right.
That's a lot.
That's crazy. You're like, thinking about it, but that's how. Maybe you're right. We do get George back, and that's how it happens. That would make perfect sense.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe I was also thinking Atticus. They don't need the Book of Names because maybe it's in that Lovecraft Country book.
Maybe because all the events that have happened are going to be obviously written
book.
about what they went through.
So he'll know. So it'd be like having a gambling atlas.
Yes,
like
in
that in
Back to the Future too. Yeah.
Gonna go back in time.
We're gonna go back in time. Tick and Letty. Okay. But okay, so one thing we did forget to mention that I thought was really cool, that I've never seen this movie and I had no idea what it was, but when she first goes to space with George, Hippolyta and George go on their discovery, there was something that was playing in the background. It sounded like a speech.
Oh, that's right.
And it wasn't from a speech. Well, sort of. It's a dialogue that was written for a movie that was called Space is the Place from 1974 by director John Coney. It was pretty much the only feature film that he ever did. Where Sun Ra, who is an actual American jazz composer, he does piano synthesizer. He's a poet. He does experimental music called cosmic philosophy. But he's done a lot of different stuff. And they had him in this movie from 1974 called Space is the Place. And he does a speech. He's like coming to these people and he's like explaining to them. They're like, who are you? He's like, I'm from space. You know, and they're like, what the fuck are you wearing? I watched it because it's on YouTube. If you guys want to watch it, you could check it out. I'm sure it's somewhere else, but I was like looking up Sun Ra and I found the actual movie and I literally clicked on the exact spot where he had the speech in an hour and 40-minute movie. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, so this movie is about Sun Ra, space age prophet, pharaonic jester, shaman philosopher, and avant jazz keyboard bandleader, lands his spaceship in Oakland. Having presumed lost in space for a few years, with black power on the rise, Ra disembarks and proclaims himself the Alter Destiny. He holds a myth versus reality rap session with black inner city youth at a rec center. This is what I was talking about. Threatening to chain you up and take you with me, like they did in Africa. If they resist his plea to go to outer space, he duels the cards with the Overseer, a satanic overlord, with the fate of the black race at stake. Ra wins the Right to World concert, which features a great performance footage of Orchestra, which is an ensemble with an ever-changing name. It's like some sort of lineup, I guess. I don't know. Agents sent by the Overseer attempt to assassinate Ra, but he vanishes and blah, blah, blah. So that's what this movie is about. And in the movie, he was saying, I do not come to you as reality. I come to you as myth. Because that's what black people are. Myth. And that's what was playing when she's discovering.
See, that makes a lot more sense now, and especially in that scene.
So it's like, man, there's like multifaceted levels of this fucking
show. I
Jesus. Yeah, that's pretty much the episode, but I thought it was cool, man. I really enjoyed this episode because there's so many different things in this. So we don't get to watch it just to like enjoy it like 100% sometimes. We could probably watch it twice and, you know, make sure we do that so that it's, you know, I don't know.
3 episodes left.
Yeah. 3 episodes left, guys. What do you think about that theory, though, guys? I would love to hear it. I think our combined theory is pretty spot on.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
I think she's going to bring back George. And George, in the future, is going to write Lovecraft Country in that timeline. I think it's going to make a lot of sense. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section down below. Hope you've been enjoying these. We do put a lot of work into them, and we greatly appreciate you guys spending time with us to talk about this kind of stuff. So if you know somebody else that might enjoy some of these discussions, please let them know. And we'll see you next time on Tuesday for a brand new episode of Lovecraft Country 8 episode. So thanks for coming by, and as always,
Long live the void.